What is happening, everybody? It is time for another MLB Live Before Lock. We're sponsored today by Underdog. So if you guys could do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not already. And very shortly, baseball is going to be the only thing going on over the course of the week because the NBA Finals, that ended last week. And then the Stanley Cup, which has been excellent. It is Game 7 today, which I'm sure a lot of our audience doesn't care all that much about, but some people do. I know Jay Curry does. He's probably not watching the show, but I know that he cares. And that is going to be over today. And that's just going to be baseball during the week. We're going to have, we get some golf, we get MMA on the weekends, but baseball, it's going to be really the only sport in town on a day-to-day basis. So, boy, right off the bat here, by the way, shout out to Chris Williams, who gifted out 10 YouTube memberships. As always, Chris, thank you for supporting the channel. If anybody's any questions for us and you are a Stochastic sub, that comes with access to our Discord channel, I'll have the Discord open, so I'll be on the lookout for any questions you guys have for us over the course of the show here. How was your weekend, Eric?
It was good. It was a good weekend. Got a little golf in. No, unfortunately not with producer Jordan Klein. Need to get that one on the book sooner rather than later. Maybe something on Saturday, but good Lord, is it hot out here. So just trying to stay cool, dog staying indoors, and got to get up early, give him extra walks. He has an ear infection though. That's a bummer. Just, some good, some bad, but overall a really good weekend. How about you? How were your hats?
So I had no hats this weekend. I tried as much as I could to stay inside because it has been like 100 degrees, and then with the humidity, like 106, 107 in New Jersey. I did have to do one project with my dad's scuba, and it was brutal because it was outdoors, and then we were working in a like tiny garage he owns, trying to clean stuff up. So that was very, very hot. But other than that, kept myself inside, watched some golf. I see Sports Guy 24 says, would you all rather watch Game 7 of the Stanley Cup or Round 1 of the Rocket Mortgage Classic? I've been watching a lot of golf as of late. A big part of it is because I've been doing well at PGA DFS. But yeah, give me Game 7 of the Stanley Cup with a bullet.
Yeah, probably gonna have to do that as well because again, game sevens in any sport, in any level of sport are interesting. How about the highest level of hockey? America and Canada. I know it's not that pronounced because, like, again, pretty proud American, but at the same time, Canada, Edmonton coming back from down 3-0. I feel like this would make Canada's year. Like, they're our bordering country. We want them to be happy. And I also want my friend Greg Ehrenberg to have more money. So I think go Oilers tonight. I'm going to be going that way.
Yeah, I would like to see the Oilers win. It would also be really fun. I mean, they were down 3-0. They could come back to win 4-3. Connor McDavid, the best player of his generation. It's one of the most anticipated hockey games of all time. I will be on my couch waiting for the puck to drop tonight, and I'll be watching that today. I'll have my iPad open on the side watching some of the baseball games that are about to break down. But yeah, it should be a really fun hockey game for anybody who is looking for something else to tune into. But baseball today, and where we have to start, where we usually, not always, but like 90% of the time, we start with the pay up options at pitcher. And it makes so much sense to make that being where we start talking about today's slate, Eric, because there are 4 pitchers priced $9,500 or higher. And then there's kind of a price gap. Freddie Peralta, $9,500, and you got Chris Bassett, $8,700. Here's what we have for projected ownerships for the high-end pitchers. $9,500 Freddie Peralta is at home against the Texas Rangers. Project for 37% ownership. Garrett Crochet, who you and I, we've been really high on Crochet this year, but 28% owned against the Los Angeles Dodgers. That is crazy high ownership on him. Cole Ragans, 27% owned against the Miami Marlins. Then you got Tanner Houck, 10,500. He is 14% owned against the Toronto Blue Jays. So he is the least popular of the 4 pay-up options, but still, ownership going to Tanner Houck. If you're rostering just one of these guys, Eric, which direction do you go?
It's pretty Peralta, but I there's some risk there too. I mean, Texas, they've underperformed against right-handed pitching this season, 93 WRC plus. I don't think anybody expected that to be the case coming into this season, but they do have Josh Smith up there hitting pretty well now, batting third. Dulles Garcia is a positive regression candidate. Corey Seager is Corey Seager, a positive regression candidate. Nate Lau, Marcus Semien. I mean, Jonah Heim batting 7th. I mean, this is just a very stacked lineup from last season by their metrics. And this year, I think they're all due for some positive regression sooner rather than later. So it's not without risk, but I do think Freddie Peralta is the chalk and good chalk for a reason. I like seeing 26.2% in the top 2% going his direction too, to at least lead that category, because if I had to pick one pitcher to really start any of my lineups with, he's 200 less than Crochet against the Dodgers. He's 600 less than Cole Ragans, who is really up there in terms of top 2 percentage and a tournament play I like. But Freddie Peralta going to be the cream of the crop for me.
Peralta is the one I have the most exposure to, but the one I'm most overweight to is Cole Ragans. The reason that it's at least a little bit easier for me to get overweight to Ragans is just because he's so much less popular than Peralta. So Peralta project for 37% ownership. I have him right around 40% of my lineups. It only has me slightly overweight to the field. Whereas Ragans, who I have in 35% of my lineups, I'm pretty sure that's 35.3% of my lineups, that just has me overweight more so to him than I am to Peralta. So technically the one I like the most, it is Peralta. It helps that he's cheaper than all the other 3 pitchers here, but also the ownership that comes with him. It's hard to get too overweight to that mark there. And, even if you have him in half your lineups, you're kind of only barely overweight to Freddie Peralta, project for nearly 40% ownership. What about the other 2 pay up options here, Eric? We've got Tanner Houck at 14%. We've got Garrett Crochet at 28%. Do you have any interest in Houck? Because he's the least popular of these 4 pitchers, and I'm just finding it difficult to fit him into lineups.
He's 10-5. If he wasn't 10-5, we could have a conversation, but he's 10-5 over on DraftKings. I think there's a case to be made where if you want to get different with a chalkier stack, where if you're playing one lineup or 20 max, you can get to some Tanner Houck, but I currently have 4% of him. So unfortunately, not going to be me.
Yeah, I only have a couple of lineups with Tanner Houck, and yeah, he's been really good this year. You can make a case that if the MLB season ended today, Tanner Houck might win the American League Cy Young Award. He's been that good as a pitcher, but going forward, I think we all expect some regression. Doesn't mean we think he's going to be bad the rest of the season, just not quite as good as he's pitched in the first half of the year. And then also he's so expensive. The matchup isn't ideal against the Toronto Blue Jays. So all those things being combined, he's the pitcher I have the least amount of exposure to in this pricing range. And then as far as Garrett Crochet goes, even in a tough matchup against the Dodgers, I still am pretty close to the field on Crochet. A couple things going for him. Mookie Betts being out, that's clearly a big benefit. Mookie's going to be out for an extended period of time. And this is also, so it's a very top-heavy Dodgers lineup.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a lot of depth on the back end of it. So when you're missing a player like Mookie Betts, yeah, it's still a difficult matchup. But I think it might be a little bit easier than people realize. And with all the strikeout upside of Crochet as well, when I was first running my lineups and everything, I was like, boy, that's a lot of ownership going to Crochet. And then I got right in line with the field. I started looking more at the Dodgers lineup. I was like, yeah, you know what? That makes sense. And I'm not as afraid of this Dodgers lineup as I thought I was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, you get Jason Hayward, lefty, batting 9th here. A couple of righties that have been struggling in Kike and Chris Taylor. Vargas has been all right. But overall, I mean, this is a watered down back half of the Dodger lineup. This is not what they expected to have coming in with Andy Page's batting cleanup. He's been good, 445 expected slugging, 44.3% hard hit. I think he's candidate for somebody that could be a potential problem here for Crochet. I just have to look at the first 5 market where the White Sox have one of the worst bullpens, if not the worst bullpen in baseball, with Kopech regressing, a couple of these other guys regressing. So I wanted to look at the first 5 market to get an idea for how they valued Crochet. Ended up betting it -135, -140. That's kind of where it's been at since last night into today. That never happens against the Dodgers, especially with the White Sox coming to town. I absolutely love the White Sox for tournaments today, but we'll get to that here a little bit. But I am looking at the Dodgers and that back half specifically, getting a lefty in Hayward. There's no doubt that he is somebody who warrants some ownership today. He's been too good.
And you look at the Dodgers lineup, like somebody brought it up in chat, that not only is Mookie Betts injured, but I want to shout out the person who brought
Max
it up in chat. Yeah, Jake DeWitt said no
Teoscar
Teoscar Hernandez today.
Mm-hmm.
Realistically, you look at this lineup, and I know that Andy Pages, really highly regarded prospect. He's been solid so far, 109 WRC plus this year. Outside of the top 3 hitters in the Dodgers lineup, though, I'm not really that afraid of anybody. Even Andy Pages, like, all right, if we add him to the mix and say, like, all right, he's a slightly above average hitter, I'm pretty confident that 5 through 9 in the Dodgers lineup, particularly against a lefty in Crochet, where you got hitters like Jason Hayward being in the lineup, I don't expect him to have a lot of success against Crochet. It's just really not a good lineup, especially past the 4-hole.
Yeah, Pages is very good. Sorry, I didn't even think of Pages. Pages, yeah, he's very good.
Yeah, so that's That's what I'm looking at as far as the top end pitchers. Anything else you want to add about the expensive options? If not, we'll get to the next range.
I just love the next range for tournaments so much, and they're cheaper. So I'm going to be firing them up, taking some shots on some low owned guys in this range, including the popular guy in Waldron.
Let's talk about all the pitchers 8K through 7K, because we just talked about the 8K guys. There's only 3 of them. Chris Bassett's $8,700. Justin Steele is pitching against the Giants. He's 22.5% owned. We've got Matt Waldron at 21% ownership against the Washington Nationals. And that's it as far as ownership goes. If you're playing anything outside of Justin Steele or Waldron at right around 20% in the 7 and 8K range, you're playing somebody who's contrarian, because the next most popular pitcher is Lance Lynn at 7.6% projected ownership. So starting with the popular guys, Eric, do you prefer Steele, Waldron, or do you just like both of these guys?
I like both of them. Steele obviously gets a phenomenal ballpark. Plays up for actual hits. It plays down for runs. Plays down for power. Obviously, the worst for power in baseball, San Francisco. But it is no doubt Justin Steele's starting to show out a little bit more here yet again. And then Waldron, the knuckleball. It's just nobody sees it ever. And what do you think Waldron's K prop is today?
5.5.
4.5 with plus money attached to it on the over. So I'm a little bit confused with the Waldron, why that prop is so low, but just standardizing it in, I can't get to 22% Matt Waldron against Washington. They don't strike out a ton as is. They don't have very good lefties. They've got a 137 ISO against righties on the season, just a 95 WRC plus, but Waldron is a knuckleballer that I was a little bit surprised to see that low of a K prop there, considering he's got a 1.16 whip, 3.46 ERA. Everything else looks good. And I think he's probably quote unquote safe to some extent, but I am looking at making some pivots. And if you make me play one of those 2 popular pitchers, I'm actually going to side with the Steele side.
It's hard to not like Justin Steele to some extent today. He's once again having another fantastic season. And it's funny, his first couple starts weren't great, but the underlying numbers were good. And there's been such a large sample size of him being a good pitcher that I was never really all that concerned. But, it was pretty common that we'd see people just say, Justin Steele sucks. Justin Steele isn't good anymore. And now here we are halfway through the season. Justin Steele is a 3.16 ERA, 3.02 expected ERA, strikeout rate once again in the mid 20% range, 24% strikeout rate for him this year, right in line with his career average. The guy came up to the big leagues in 2021, and he's just consistently been a top of the rotation starter, not like a Cy Young candidate, but like the next level of pitcher, like whatever is just behind a Cy Young. That is what we have in Justin Steele. He's been a really good pitcher for a while, consistent, good fantasy asset, good matchup today, pitcher friendly ballpark. He's my favorite pitcher to roster who isn't one of the expensive guys.
I'm absolutely with you. I think he's the guy that I'm pulling the most of in this range. There's one pitcher that we'll get to that I'm just absolutely disturbed that he's pulling as much ownership as he is. I completely understand it because it's Oakland, but Griffin Canning at 6,100, probably going to be looking to get away from that. And some of that exists here in the 7K, 8K range. Lance Lynn is somebody that I think has pitched a lot better here. I am not sure that in this hitting environment, I want to be siding with him. I am on the over of the game. It feels like a spot that I should have more Lance Lynn as leverage, but pulling a little bit there. But yeah, Matt Waldron's the guy I'm undercutting most in this range, but Justin Steele a little bit over. Matt Waldron sitting at about half, even though I really like his prospects for this game just to succeed.
Any contrarian options you're really liking here? The pickings are pretty slim. I think that the field is right to not really be rostering any of these guys.
Chris Bassett, we've got 5.8% leverage coming in on him. I've got 8% of him, so I'm a little bit over on that. Boston, we've seen some strikeout games that you can go get after it. I was waiting for that to officially come out on him pretty much all day, and sure enough, we got him as the starter. So Chris Bassett, I think he's all right to get to, but a little bit overpriced. And considering you've got Waldron and Steele a little bit cheaper, I think that's just kind of incorrect.
Yeah, the only one of these guys that I'm overweight to at all that's contrarian is Spencer Schwellenbach. And that's really because he's 3% owned and I have him in 5% a lineup. So not like somebody who I'm clamoring to play or anything like that. But for whatever reason, I have watched all of his starts in their entirety. I think I've had I guess, bets on his strikeouts or something. For whatever reason, I've ended up watching all of Schwellenbach's starts this year. He's not bad. He has pretty good stuff. His numbers this year, and we had no clue what to expect from him when he first got called up, kind of an unranked prospect that is zero data pretty much in the minor leagues. He pitched 13 innings in double A this year. Last year, he pitched 51 innings in A ball, 13 innings in high A ball. So you didn't know what you were going to be getting out of Schwellenbach. And he does have a 4.98 ERA this year, but 3.62 expected ERA, 3.98 FIP. But the thing that's really stuck out to me when I watch him, he could really throw hard when he has to in high leverage situations. His average fastball velocity is 96, but you've seen him get close to 100 when he really has to. So the stuff seems to be pretty good. He's in 5% of my lineups at 3% ownership. So if you have to roster a contrarian guy, that's the one I'm going to say.
Yeah, that's fine. Can't really make a case for anybody else. So yeah, I'm fine with it. I've got 2% of him.
All right, we'll look at the cheap pitching options in a second. But first, we've got a question in Discord from Hey, I'm Drew 95. He wants to know, who are the DK cash game plays today? And then he also thanks us afterwards. Pitcher, I'm going to say Freddie Peralta and Cole Ragans. Just play those two in cash.
Yep, you should play those two in cash.
And then if we're talking about offense, the Kansas City Royals against Roddery Munoz, and then as pay-up bats, if you are looking for them, some of the Cincinnati Reds going up against Bailey Falter. Really, the Kansas City Royals are who I think you want to be building around at offense. Roddery Munoz, who outside of the one time, Eric, that we had a bunch of bets against him and stacked against him a whole bunch in DFS. He's been terrible outside of that one start where he pitched well against, I think it was the Mets.
Yep. Thanks for coming. Have a nice time, everybody. Roddery Munoz is terrible. Kansas City is mega chalk, or should be mega chalk, and you should play a ton of them in cash.
Yeah, we'll talk more about stacks in a little bit here, but a little bit of a sneak preview. Roddery Munoz this year has now made 6 starts. In those starts, he has a 5.76 ERA and a 7 expected ERA. So the guy has been really terrible. He is a 5.76 ERA, and you can make a very strong case that he's lucky to have an ERA that's only probably should be a little bit higher. So that's where I think you should be going with your bats. Load up on the Kansas City Royals, and then pitcher, like we said, safest guys, Freddie Peralta, as well as Cole Ragans. Kind of surprised that Ragans is picking up less ownership than Crochet. Now, with that said, Crochet does have a little bit of a watered-down Dodgers lineup he's going up against. Let's talk about cheap pitchers now, Eric, because there's only one punt option at pitcher that's getting ownership. Griffin Canning projected for 19% ownership in a good matchup against the Oakland A's. The other cheap pitchers on the slate, not a single one of them under 7K is projected for more than 1% ownership. Griffin
Pretty
Canning
wild.
So here's the issue with Griffin Canning. He's not good. He's not good at all. But he's pitching against the Oakland A's, so it's a good matchup. The other pitchers in this pricing range are also terrible. So to me, if you need a punt pitcher to spend up at offense, you're just looking to save salary. Like, I don't see any way to go other than Griffin Canning.
Yep. Yes and no. Obviously, I am going to be firing up some of these lefties. We only have 3 of them, though, in the lineup. That's kind of the issue with Oakland, is that I bet the lefties, mainly because it's really, really hard to envision him getting lefties out at any point in time. As you said, he is not good. And that's been a ballpark there in Anaheim that's played up for some lefty power. Knowing that there's only 3 of them in there, though, that should put you at ease to play him in DFS. Only a 15.3% K rate against righties, but the expected ISO, 169 there, 122 actual ISO. Against lefties, 255 ISO, 225 expected ISO. Ridiculous stuff. So only 3 of them that exist out there for Oakland. I'm with you where I think he can survive. Right now, I just have barely double-digit ownership going his direction, but I totally understand. Oakland's second highest strikeout rate against righties. Everything checks in terms of like an upgraded strikeout situation for Canning in this one.
Anything else you want to talk about on the cheap end of these pitchers? Because, I mean, we're looking at Bailey Falter, Roddery Munoz, Carson Spears, Patrick Corbin, Luis Medina, Spencer Howard. It's some of the worst pitchers that we have in baseball, all getting together to pitch on the same slate.
I like Spencer Howard. This is a little bit cheeky play, but I have 8% of him as well. So a lot of guys that I have like 8% of, but he's yet another one. I didn't know who San Francisco starter was waking up this morning because I don't think that they had one out there, but assuming he ends up being the guy, you never know how many innings you're going to get out of somebody when they're piggybacking, but we've had a pretty good idea of him being able to go 4 or 5 innings. It's a Chicago Cubs matchup where you get them out of Wrigley here, Summer Wrigley, that is. You get them into San Francisco. I think it's an okay spot considering he's the cheapest arm that exists on the board at 5K. I have some interest in just taking shots on him as opposed to Griffin Canning because I do think Oakland, I'm going to get to some shares of them on the other side, taking him on, considering he's popular, considering there's a pretty clear path for some of those lefties. And then the Cubs, they're just number of strikeouts that exist here in this version of the lineup here. The Cubs on the aggregate, 24.2% K rate against righties on the year. So I know that we never really know exactly what we're getting into with some of these longer relievers, but at a flat 5K on a 9-game slate where I'm trying to save money, I don't completely hate it.
All right, let's go ahead and look at the FanDuel side of pitchers. Do you have anything to add from the DK side?
Nope, that was the one I wanted to throw in there. Won't be playing Patrick Corbin, won't be playing Funky Cold Medina. That's about it.
All right, so let's talk about the FanDuel side of things. And pitching is pretty spread out there. Peralta's 22% owned. Ragans is 14%. Waldron's 14%. The reason that Waldron is more popular over on FanDuel relative to it being a single pitcher site is because he's $8,300. So you're getting a big salary saving on Waldron relative to these other pitchers. Crochet is 14% owned. Justin Steele is 11% owned. Even Tanner Houck is 9.5% owned. And there's not another pitcher on FanDuel that's even pulling more than 3% ownership. So if you're paying up for one pitcher today, Eric, and let's go with all the guys that are 9K or above, who are you leaning with on FanDuel?
Freddie Peralta, it's chalky, but I don't almost care at 9,800. He's 1,200 less than Ragans. He's 400 less than Crochet against the Dodgers. Freddie Peralta is chalky up there, 24.6% K rate. But if I'm playing one lineup, I think I would just differentiate with bats and probably eat that chalk.
Let's see. I'll go with, if I'm rostering one pitcher, I mean, I would like to say Ragans, but he's 11,000. That's a pretty steep price tag to get up to. I'll say Justin Steele, just because you're getting him for less than half of the ownership of Freddie Peralta. And we don't have that big of a gap in their projection. We've got Freddie Peralta, 9.7% chance to be the top scoring pitcher. Justin Steele, 7.3%. Freddie Peralta is your cash game pitcher over on FanDuel, but in tournaments, if I'm looking to differentiate a little bit and pay up, I'll go with Justin Steele, giving me him at $9,500 in a good matchup against the San Francisco Giants. If you're looking to be contrarian, is there a spot that stands out to you? Because there actually is one guy that I like for low ownership on FanDuel.
Yeah, Lance Lynn is sitting there at 7,600, 1.9% ownership going his direction. Griffin Canning's 400 less. I'm sure you could fire that one up against Oakland. Both of them sitting at 2%. I think they're both very live to be in the lineup, but yeah, you're going to be just going all of the bats and all the land. How about you?
You know, the reason that we had a little bit of hesitancy about getting to Griffin Canning over on DraftKings is just because he's 20% owned. He's the only pitcher in that pricing range. You've got the same scenario on FanDuel where he's the only pitcher who's viable in this pricing range. The difference is he's only 1% owned on FanDuel. So for 20% ownership, I'm going to have Griffin Canning in lineups on DraftKings, but I'm not forcing him in or anything. I'm a little bit underweight to the field on him. FanDuel, where he's 1% owned, that could really save you some salary and put you on a different lineup build. He should be more popular than 1% on FanDuel.
I would agree with that.
We do have Griffin Canning with a 5% chance to be the top scoring pitcher over on FanDuel. So that's going to be the guy that I go with for differentiation purposes over on FanDuel. No other questions from chat. Eric, anything you want to add about FanDuel pitching? If not, we'll build some lineups in the lineup generator.
Let's head to the lineup generator.
All right, lineup generator it is. If you guys do want to sign up for this tool, it's going to build lineups for you. You can put some of your own sort of input into it in terms of, do you want to be contrarian, chalky, balanced lineups? You can choose the stack type you want. And then you can also edit those lineups using our player projections and ownership projections, which are included right in the lineup generator, all for less than $15. Sign up using the link below in the YouTube description box. Starting with DraftKings, Jordan, let's go all stack types. And let's go balanced today. There's not like any kind of real crazy pronounced chalk. Now I'm sure that the Royals or something going to show up in 1,000,000% of lineups, but
yeah, they probably are.
We'll see what shows up here. I'm going to refresh ownership while Jordan's building these lineups out.
It is a tomato can. I know. That's why I'm going to bet against him, and I'm going to do the over there, and I'm going to bet Atlanta there too. But in DFS, you got to think range of outcomes. He's 2% owned on FanDuel.
All right. Let's see what we have
Oh, it's
here.
all
Yeah, Freddie
Royals.
Peralta is in 3/4 of our lineups. And then you see all the Royals bats right behind there. Bobby Witt, the Michael Massey, Kyle Isbell. There's Dragons again. Salvador Perez, Hunter Renfroe. So it's very, very heavily geared towards the Kansas City Royals, which is no surprise when you look at just how terrible Rodri Munoz is. To repeat the numbers that I brought up before, Munoz has a 5.76 ERA, a 7 expected ERA, a 7.46 FIP. Here's what really gets me about this guy, though, Rodri Munoz, though, Eric. He's been terrible in the minor leagues for a while. This year in AAA, he had a 5.49 ERA and a 5.85 FIP. Last year in AAA with the Nationals, he had a 6.98 ERA and a 6.31 FIP. So there's just no redeeming qualities. This guy, then he throws pretty hard. But other than that, the guy's gotten his ass kicked in the major leagues. He got his ass kicked in the minor leagues at multiple levels. Even go back to 2022 in Double A in 2022 with the Braves, he had a 9.82 ERA, a 5.45 FIP. I'm so confused every time this guy starts. Why is he pitching in the big leagues? It doesn't make sense. He hasn't been good in the big leagues. He got his ass kicked in the minor leagues. He's an unranked prospect. So I want to stack against him. The question just becomes, is the Royal stack too popular? Because if you look at our stack exposures here in the lineup generator, we're finding out, at least from the lineup generator, that they're not too popular. Just click on the stack exposures, Jordan. Yeah, got them in about half of our lineups here. What are you going to be doing with the Royals tonight?
I'm going to play them. I'm going to mix and match. And obviously the Sims is doing a great job of differentiating what stack types I should be getting to, how to differentiate some of those lineups. But I'm just looking at my batters, and Bobby Witt's my second highest owned batter. My fourth highest owned batter is Renfroe. Massey is fifth. Maikel Garcia is seventh. Vinny Pasquantino eighth. I don't have anybody over 30% of my lineups, but Bobby, I mean, this just is a core building block team that I want to have just about everywhere. It's just hard to get away from, considering Rodri Munoz. You go through some of his numbers on FanGraphs, and there's only one pitcher with a worse home run to fly ball ratio that he has on this slate, 30.6%. And it's Ben Rohrvat. It's a positional player. So we've got a guy with a 211 BABIP in Rodri Munoz, who that should have negative regression for him as well. That should be closer to the 300 line sooner rather than later. He's got a 7 expected ERA. He gives up fly ball contact. It's hot and humid over there. I don't see how you don't play a ton of Royals, considering the cheap price points on the back end guys, and then the upside at Sal Perez, a catcher, of Mr. Bobby Witt there. I mean, it's just a ridiculous team to get to today.
Yeah, it doesn't even have that much to do with the Royals, because I've seen people in the chat bring up, how could the Royals be popular? It's a team that has probably overachieved to this point in the season. It really just has to do with, you got a pitcher in Rodri Munoz who got his ass kicked in the major league level, got his ass kicked in AAA, got his ass kicked in AA, got his ass kicked in A-ball, and just for whatever reason, just continued to fail upwards until he got to the major leagues. So it's just really hard for me to not want to pick on him. I do have the Royals in 20% of my lineups as a stack, Eric.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yeah, I've got more than that for what it's worth, but it's just, he's so bad. He is so bad that it is undeniable that you should be firing up some Royals in some capacity.
Let's talk about the other side of this, though. As bad as we just said Munoz is, as much as we're expecting the Royals to be the chalkiest offense on the slate, are you looking to play them in single entry, or is there a different team you'd look at for a single entry contest?
I would be getting away from them in single entry, because I am getting away from them in single entry.
Okay. So with that in mind, which team are you going to in single entry contests?
All right. It's getting a little bit iffy, because they're starting to get a little bit more popular, but I love Atlanta for single entry. Everybody's saying that I'm defending Lance Lynn or something. I'm saying that he's just been better. His power metrics have been better in 2024. He hasn't been giving up the crazy contact that he was once upon a time. But you know what changes that? 92-degree weather and 50% humidity in St. Louis, with an Atlanta team that is coming alive, has, despite the fact that they lost Ronald Acuna here about a month ago, they still have an opportunity to go to Jared Kelenic, 46.3% hard hit, 432 expected slugging. Ozzy Albies, a positive regression candidate. Marcell Ozuna has short of a plus 200 odds to hit a homer today, which came out of nowhere for an opening number. Matt Olson, Austin Riley, Sean Murphy, Ramon Laureano, 44.4% hard hit. I like getting to 1 through 7, this Forrest Wall character. I think you're all right firing him up as well. I mean, this is just going to be a team that Yeah, Atlanta is one that I just think is one of the most positively leveraged in the best spot. Road bump, ninth inning. I don't see how I would get away from them at single entry in our data.
Yeah, we've got actually a very funny joke in the chat here. James Sarconi saying, I think that Lynn will be Joey Chestnut's replacement in 2 weeks. Yeah, he's gonna go for the he's gonna go for the rarely seen triple play. In one day, Lance Lynn is expected to compete in the hot dog eating competition, the pie eating competition, and the ice cream eating competition. So Lance Lynn, he's going to drag his fat ass out there on July 4th and eat all the food that he can handle. And then he will pitch probably later on the day and do his normal 6 innings, 4 runs, 3 homers allowed to lefties. If you're going to stack against Lance Lynn, it should be targeting left-handed batters against him. He's got some of the most pronounced splits you'll ever see.
Yep, you just want to fire it up.
Let me think. For myself in single entry, so it's definitely not going to be the Royals. They're super popular. The 2 teams I think we could cross off right away for single entry. Royals, not because I don't think they're the best stack on the slate, but just because I think the batters are all going to be like 30-ish% owned in single entry. And the Angels are also going to be really popular against Luis Medina.
Yep.
I think I'm leaning towards the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Oh, my Lord. Where did that come from?
Massive park upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I mean, it is the team we're getting the second most of in the lineup generator here.
Well, then,
big park upgrade. They're going to be playing in Cincinnati. Carson Spears, he is going to be on the mound, and we don't know that much about Spears. He does not project well at all. I'll tell you that much. If you look at all projection sites, he's only made 1 start this year. He's made 3 big league starts for his career. So once again, not all that much information on him. Here's what his projections are for the rest of the season. Steamer has his ERA 4.66. Zips has him at 5. The Bat has him at 4.91. Depth chart has him at 4.83. In addition to that, all of these sites have him as all these projection models have him as a low strikeout guy as well. I think there's a lot of damage to be done against Carson Spears. That's where I'm leaning towards.
Okay. I didn't see that one coming. I can honestly say that. But the lefties specifically, I do like the Pittsburgh lefties. You're talking about O'Neill Cruz, Rowdy Tellez, which is, a hard guy to like at this stage of his career, but such is life. He's batting cleanup. And Brian Reynolds, who's just a professional hitter in every sense of the word. But he gets by those. He should have an okay time with some of those righties. Spears should. I don't know. It feels like that specifics. I did not see you saying Pittsburgh for single entry. That's for sure.
Out of curiosity, what did you think I was going to say?
I thought you were going to potentially go Atlanta with me, but such is life. You are a contrarian in every sense of the word here. I also
Pittsburgh is somewhat popular, so I don't want to make it seem like I'm going out on a crazy limb. But I think outside of the Angels and the Royals especially, I don't think any team is going to have like problematic ownership in single entry.
No, they're not. That's very true.
So it is going to be the Pittsburgh Pirates for me. And if we go back to looking at our exposures here in the lineup generator, scroll down, I want to see pitchers. We got Waldron in 28% of lineups. We have, where else are the pitchers? Oh, there's Justin Steele. He's in a double-digit percent of lineups. So is Griffin Canning. So, I mean, it makes sense. We did have Freddie Peralta in 72% of lineups. There's only so much space for other pitchers beyond that. We do see if we look at our most roster hitters outside of the Kansas City Royals, I do see Jack Sawinski there.
Relegated to 8-hole.
There, Brian Hayes,
sucks.
Brian Reynolds, Andrew McCutcheon. So a bunch of hitters from the Pirates here are showing up in north of 20% of lineups. But the core ones here from the lineup generator, if you're looking to make a stack, Sawinski, go back down for a second if you wouldn't mind, Jordan. Sawinski, Brian Hayes, Jordan, you cannot stop highlighting everything there. Sawinski, Brian Hayes, Brian Reynolds, Andrew McCutcheon, O'Neill Cruz. Those are the Pirates hitters we're getting the most of. Anything else that stands out to you about these lineups?
Yeah, there's lots of Pittsburgh Pirates. There's Cincinnati with Ellie De La Cruz. Hello, stolen base upside. He is hopping in our projections, that's for sure. Helps when you steal bases like crazy. Don't sleep on there, Fairchild. Like getting to Stuart Fairchild as well. Tyler Stevenson sitting there at the catcher spot. Like a lot of those guys, Jaime Candelario just seems like a game that's kind of getting crazy steamed up. I mean, Bailey Falter's the more attackable of the two. Let's be dead serious. Carson Spears has been showing out a little bit, but there's no doubt that this entire game is just getting popped in our projections there.
Ellie De La Cruz is having such a weird season.
Yeah, he's terrible at hitting, but so good at putting up fantasy points because if he gets on base, it's like auto steal.
He was so good to open up the season. He had a 164 WRC plus the first month of the year. Second month of the year, he's a 67 WRC plus and is just constantly striking out. A lot of promising signs with his strikeout rate being sub 30% in the month of June, and then also above average hitter, 119 WRC plus. But I mean, who's a 3-month, month by month, 164 WRC plus, 67, 119? Super inconsistent all over the place. But for fantasy, clearly there's a lot of upside in Ellie De La Cruz. Let's check out some FanDuel lineups, sure, and let's build FanDuel lineups in here and see what shows up. And no other questions for us. All right, so let's go balance lineups again, Jordan. And yeah, save some of those lineups. Going to check the FanDuel ownership and refresh that. One thing that stands out about FanDuel here, you guys will see once again, Royals showing up a whole bunch. Over on DraftKings, the Royals have high ownership, but not like insanely high. They are 17% owned over on FanDuel, Eric. So quite a bit more popular there. They're showing up in about the same amount of lineups here on FanDuel we got to on DraftKings. Our most rostered hitters, Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino, Hunter Renfroe. Then we're seeing some Reds, Spencer Steer, Ellie De La Cruz, but also there, Salvador Perez, MJ Melendez, Michael Massey. So the Royals, once again, showing up in everything for us in the lineup generator on FanDuel. Is the 17% ownership, does that change how you view them on FanDuel compared to how you view them on DK?
Nope. Play a lot of them.
One thing that does help them, they are relatively cheaper on FanDuel compared to their price points on DraftKings. So they do show up as negatively leveraged on FanDuel. I would not play them in single entry where, I mean, these hitters might be 40% owned in FanDuel single entry. So that's something that would give me pause. But large field tournaments, still a team to be loading up on. Stack exposures, if you wouldn't mind clicking on that, Jordan. I want to see what else we have here. Your camera turned off, Eric. Yeah, so we've got the Royals in 4/5 of our FanDuel lineups. Doesn't mean they're the primary stack, but at least a couple of them as a secondary stack. Then we've got the Reds in a bunch of lineups, the Red Sox. Here's the team that I think is being slept on over, well, not being slept on because they are pulling some ownership on FanDuel, but at least in the lineup generator, I like the Pittsburgh Pirates. Again, Pittsburgh Pirates only showing up in 12% of lineups there. One thing that does surprise me, the Red Sox in 20% of our FanDuel stacks.
That was a big stand. That was the thing I was going to point out was Boston showing up against Chris Bassett. Don't know how much I love that one, but it is definitely a different situation when you're playing 4 batters. Specifically, you can get to Devers, you can get to Duran, you can get to Abreu batting third. There's some intriguing 3 and 4 mans that you could put together on FanDuel that I might be more inclined than full 5 mans over on DK.
Yeah, only teams that we're really getting meaningful exposure to here, Boston Red Sox, Cincinnati Reds, Kansas City Royals. Same question for FanDuel that I asked you on DraftKings. If you're building one lineup and it was a single entry, what would be the team you would look to stack as a primary?
Looking at our data here, I'm probably going to be going towards, I mean, Cincinnati isn't pulling like crazy ownership over on FanDuel right now. I'd probably be Atlanta again. Again, Atlanta against Lance Lynn, just sitting there, 5.9% ownership share. There's got to be a way of constructing something over on FanDuel that I would really, really like in that game environment. I even like the St. Louis side up against Schwallenbach, 2.4% ownership there. The lefties up against him there. I think that both sides of that one going a little bit under-owned on FanDuel.
Because the ownership's a little bit higher on the Pirates over on FanDuel, I'm going to go with the Reds against Bailey Falter. We do with the Reds with the second highest overall top stack odds on the slate. I'll go with the Cincinnati Reds for FanDuel, Pittsburgh Pirates over on DraftKings. So same game, just different sides of it that I prefer for single entry for the different sites there. Anything else you want to add about the FanDuel lineups we built out?
Nope, looks fantastic. I do like just jamming Kansas City in large field yet again over there. Don't see any way around it.
All right. So let's go ahead then and open it up to talk about some of the other stacks that we're liking for today. And if you guys haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are sponsored by Underdog today. If you're looking to sign up at Underdog, use the link we have below in the description box. Get yourself up to a $250 bonus on your first deposit there when you sign up with our link. And also, we've got free best ball projections over at Stochastic. So if you guys are going to be signing up at Underdog and you're going to be taking advantage of a deposit bonus offer, go head on over to Stochastic.com. You make a free account, totally free account, and you get access to our best ball for zero cost to you. So if you've been looking to do some best ball drafts, we've got projections for drafters, for DraftKings, as well as for Underdog, and it's 100% totally free. All you have to do is just make a free account on our website, and you get access to all of that. Let's see for the other stacks on the slate, Eric. What else is important to you? We've talked about the Kansas City Royals. We've talked about the Pittsburgh Pirates. Are there any leverage stacks that stand out to you at all?
Over on DK?
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking FanDuel, just no pitchers are crazy popular. The one thing I do like about DraftKings just in general more than FanDuel for MLB is that DraftKings, you'll get pitchers who are 40, 50% owned that typically doesn't exist on FanDuel, with being a single pitcher site. So yeah, DraftKings for leverage, and most of the pitchers that we have that are pulling ownership are good pitchers, but are there any ones that are pulling ownership do you think are targetable that maybe we could get some leverage by stacking against?
Yeah, Oakland. Oakland continually getting brought up here in this one. There is no denying that there is massive upside for any right-handed human going up against this Oakland lineup, second highest K rate in baseball now. But there's also no denying that Griffin Canning has a lefty problem, and you get Blade leading off, you get Soderstrom batting cleanup. I think you can put professional hitters and Brent Rooker. It's not like you should be completely averse to playing some of these righties going up against him as well. Griffin Canning sitting with a 169 expected ISO against righties. That's not nothing. 314 xWOBA. I think it's pretty useful to just be getting to Oakland bats as a team to thread into a lot of these Kansas City lineups, and tons of ownership coming in for Griffin Canning for a $6,100 pitcher. I understand it, but I also understand that it makes it a pretty obvious leverage opportunity.
I have nearly 10% exposure to the Oakland A's, so I have to agree with you. And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. Neither of us like Griffin Canning, but you kind of get forced to play him in some lineups because all the other punt options are shitty on DraftKings. But Griffin Canning, not particularly good as a pitcher. It's not like he's going to be going out there and striking a ton of guys out. Once upon a time, Griffin Canning was a top pitching prospect, and he was okay when he first got called up to the big leagues. But what ended up happening was there was a UCL injury for Griffin Canning. He had to take a bunch of time off, and he hasn't been the same guy since he came back from injury. 5.02 ERA, 4.99 expected ERA this year. The strikeout rate also only 15.4% K rate this year. So if you had Griffin Canning in lineups, like I'll have him in a couple of lineups, I don't really have an issue with that. My preferred way to play this game actually is by getting some leverage and stacking the Oakland A's.
I'm with you. Did we end up getting Fernando Tatis out of this? Because he got sent to the IL.
He's on the injured list.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, but he's still in our projections, I think. I'm going to have to take him out here. Double check it. I was looking at projections last updated, still sitting a little bit later there.
Yeah, let me see if we have to send a message.
I just had a buddy ping me.
No, he's not in it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, he's not in our projections.
Good.
We're good. We're all good there. But yeah, Fernando Tatis on the injured list, out today. If you guys didn't see that, let's look at the rest of the stacks here. And outside of the Oakland A's, I don't really see a leverage stack that I really want to be building around. Like if you had a lineup or two of the top of the Dodgers lineup, or if you had like a cheap Miami stack or something, like cool, but not something if you're playing 1, 2, 3 lineups that I would be considering. Who are the other stacks that are important to you today?
Oh, man. I've got Oakland, Kansas City. I've got Atlanta, St. Louis. I like that game environment. I think both sides of that are going a little bit underappreciated. We've got Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. That's a great game environment, but that's pulling all the ownership. 9.2%, 9.4% ownership. We know what it looks like in Great American Small Park with, for all intents and purposes, a gas cannon falters, Spires or Spears still sitting there with some questions to him. But St. Louis and Atlanta, we know how good Atlanta's lineup will be eventually, and that they're just starting to get going. It's getting into the summer months as is, but 92 degrees, really short home run odds. And I don't agree with the ownership being as minimal as it is. Only 6.5% ownership against Lance Lynn. And then same thing for St. Louis. You don't have Arenado and Goldschmidt, but if you've watched St. Louis baseball this season, it's not two massive, huge omissions by any means. So I'm definitely looking at St. Louis as a nice leverage stack. So that entire game, just give me all of it.
Yeah, another team as well that I don't have quite as much as the field, but I'm kind of close is the Angels. And it's not because the Angels are any good. It's just another team in a really easy matchup. Luis Medina, he's actually very similar in many ways to Roddery Munoz, because you look at Medina's minor league numbers, they have not been good either, but he throws hard and he kind of just has kept failing and getting called up throughout the minor leagues. Last year, the A's, do you remember some of those starts Medina would have last year where the A's would have him pitch? He would start, he'd give up like 6 runs in 3 innings. He'd be like, hey, dude, you're just going to throw like 3-4 more innings today.
Sure
and
do.
it would just be like pinball against him, where he'd be racking up bonuses and guys are just going base to base against him. 5.42 ERA, 4.8 expected ERA for him last year. This year, he's mostly pitched at the big league level. The times he has pitched in the minor leagues, it's gone poor across A-ball and AAA. He's got like a 18 ERA or something like that in the minor leagues this year, Medina. Last year in AAA, he had a 6.48 ERA and a 5.21 expected ERA. If I remember correctly, I think he got traded from the Yankees to the A's as part of the Frankie Montas trade. But I mean, there's pretty clear blow-up potential here for Luis Medina. I know the other side, people are just going to say the Angels are bad. And the thing that I would say to that is, but Medina has been getting blown up in AAA, AA, single A, same as what ended up happening with Roddery Munoz as he's pitched throughout the minor league level. So Angels are a team that I also have some exposure to, but not all that different from the field because the field's getting there.
Yep, field's getting there as they should. And I have some Taylor Ward in my life. I have a couple of other one-offs, 2 pieces. I don't have a lot of 5-mans of them, but totally understandable. Luis Funky Cole Medina is not that good.
Shout out to Chris Williams, who not only gifted out 5 more YouTube memberships, but also left us a super chat saying, wanted to say thank you for the great crew. More motivation. He got first in the DK night slate on Saturday. Said this last time, we'll say it again. Atone for your sins, hit the like button, bring yourself some good karma. And I tweeted that win too. Shout out to Chris Williams, who, one of the guys who's been watching the shows regularly and kills it in the chat. So also one of the good guys out there. So Chris, we always appreciate you and thank you very much for the super chat. Let's see. Was there anything else in Discord? Yes. We got Einsteinium wants to know, are the Marlins a stack I have interest in? I have a couple of Marlins stacks, but like not a team I'm prioritizing or anything.
Yeah, the word is not interest in. The word is I have 1% of. Do I even have? I have 0.66% of. Cool. That'll be fun.
Yeah, not a team I'm writing off, but not like going out of my way to force them into more lineups. And then Sean Jeezy left us a question in Discord, wants to know our favorite single entry stacks. So for me, I'm going with the Pittsburgh Pirates as my favorite single entry team. And Eric went with the Atlanta Braves, if I remember correctly.
That is correct.
Yeah, so I'm going to be playing Pittsburgh in single entry, Sean. Eric is going with the Atlanta Braves. Anything else you want to add about stacks or offense? If not, we'll do our home run picks and give some time back to the people.
No, I think we're all set.
All right. If you guys haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let us know who you're picking to go yard today in the YouTube chat, because it is time for some dong picks. Eric, lead us off here. Who are you picking at a homer tonight?
Second here. Oh,
I already have my answer if you're looking for yours.
No, my mic cut out there. So okay. Camera off, mic cut out. No, you go first. I will follow you.
Okay, so I mean, the Pittsburgh Pirates, it's the team I'm going to be playing in single entry today. Also, it's where a lot of my most rostered individual hitters are coming from, either Pittsburgh or KC. So with that in mind, O'Neal Cruz, that is going to be my home run pick. Missed all of last year with the broken leg, and he's had a nice bounce back season so far this year. And kind of similarly, O'Neal Cruz to Ellie De La Cruz, massively inconsistent, but big fantasy upside. He's also a giant. He's like 6'8" or something like that at shortstop, which is pretty crazy. He's built like Slender Man though. But yeah, big power in O'Neal Cruz. He's my most rostered individual hitter. That's my home run pick. Eric, tell us about your dong.
Tyler Soderstrom, 56.7% hard hit, 534 expected slugging, gets the platoon against Griffin Canning. And Griffin Canning, 255 ISO, 225 expected ISO against lefties on the season. Soderstrom, 302 expected ISO so far against righties. He strikes out a ton, but if you don't bring strikeout stuff to the plate against Soderstrom, he can hit it very, very far. He's a young man's Joey Gallo. Let's party.
All right, now let's read off some of the home run calls from chat. Jordan Klein, don't forget to submit yours as well. We have Casey Leatherwood going with Ha-Sung Kim and Jonah Heim. We've got Malukar going Vinny Pasquantino. Peter Wysocki is going with Brian Reynolds, which he must be confident because he typed it in all capital letters. Aaron Hines has got Willie Adames. Ricardo Nelson has got Spencer Steer here. Will the Bill is going with Shohei Ohtani. It seems like people might be infringing on some of your home run picks, Jordan.
Oh, no.
Okizi, Adim, Madumir has got Ian Happ. We've got Jay Loveladies going with Rowdy Tellez. We've also got Alex Serra has got Alec Burleson for 2 homers today. Sports Guy 24 has gone with Blade, Rookers, Soderstrom, Langoliers, all of the Oakland A's there. Almost Made has got Ozzy Albies. Flex is going with Zachary Geloff. I think every player from the Oakland A's has been picked in chat now. Thomas Rensberger is also going with O'Neill Cruz. JB Hughes has got Matt Olson. We've got Kid Kobe going with Massey today. Jordan Klein going with Stephen Kwan. All right, well, Jordan, I see you. Ellie De La Cruz from Sean Gaudet. And then we've got JB Hughes also going Matt. Oh, he said Matt Olson before. So Matt Olson again. And then we got Frauda Louie has got a Fairchild for today. So guys, that is going to do it for us. If you have not done it, one more time, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you haven't signed up at Underdog, use our link. We got free best ball projections over at Stochastic. Other than that, have a good night. I highly recommend you check out Game 7 of the Stanley Cup. I know we got people in here who are going to say they're too high and mighty to watch hockey, but it's going to be a good game today. Check it out. Other than that, have a great night. See you guys back here tomorrow. Peace out.